Yo, what's up? It's Mr. Eric, Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. Today's a nursing shift at the hospital. So that's what we're going to be talking about, specifically 3 major things. 1, pain control, 2, blood pressures, and 3, discharge to a rehab facility. If you get some good information out of this, feel free to leave a like. However, as you know, I've only been a nurse for a couple months, so I'm not like the most educated person on all these topics. All I'm giving you is what I experienced today. If you want some more info, just feel free to do your own research. However, if you're new to this and you just want to find out something cool, feel free to keep watching. Let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is pain control. Today, I had a patient with major pain issues. Now, if you've ever had pain in your life, you know it could be like a discomfort, you know it could feel like aching, it could feel like burning, like you're being stabbed in a certain part of the body or generalized. There's all these different types of pain. However, this lady was dealing with major acute stabbing, crushing, 10 out of 10 pain in her hip. And it makes sense because she came in for a fall with a hip fracture. Now, if you've ever had pain in your life from breaking a bone, well, the worst pain you could ever have from breaking a bone is your hip, because you can't really put a cast on your hip. No matter what, it's got to move somehow. Your hip is so damn big that there's no way you're going to fit a cast around it to keep it immobilized. When somebody breaks their hip, all they can really do is lay in bed all day and try not to move it. However, that's pretty inevitable because you're moving around every time. You have to like turn over the covers or make a position change in bed. It's just impossible to keep it still. So the only real way to control this pain when you break a hip is to give you pain meds. So usually when people are in the hospital after breaking a hip, they are on a pain med regimen. Now, I don't know if it's scheduled ever. I think it is sometimes. But there's all these PRN orders for pain meds. PRN means in the hospital as needed. So it's pain meds as needed. And they like to start with a low side effect pain med with something like Tylenol, ibuprofen. However, if the pain is not controlled by that type of medication, they have to use something more potent. That's when you get to the fentanyl, the Dilaudid, the morphine. Those are supposed to cover pain that is in the 7 to 10 range. So, as you expect, a patient with this much pain after breaking a hip is going to be on those most potent pain medications. However, the problem is you cannot give these all the time. These pain medications can cause respiratory decrease. They can really depress your whole nervous system, so you can't give them all the time. Otherwise, you get into a coma, you won't be breathing at all, and all these other bad things are going to happen. So you can only give them in certain time windows. If you gave it at 4 o'clock, you have to give it next time at like 8 o'clock. You need like 3 or 4 hours. So that's what the order is. However, with this patient today, there was no pain med in the world that could solve her pain. No matter how much morphine we gave, and no matter how close we gave it to the previous dose, we went within the order parameters, but this lady still had pain. So she was getting very angry at us about not controlling her pain. So as nurses, all we can really do in that situation is use alternative pain management strategies. So something like an ice pack, heat pack, towels, changing their bed position, changing their chair position, all that type of stuff. That's all we can really do as nurses. We can also page the doctor to ask them to look at her or him, the patient, and assess them and maybe prescribe something new. Other than that, though, as nurses, there's nothing we can do pharmacologically to manage pain. The best thing we can do, like I just said, is to message the doctor and ask them to put a new order in and assess them. However, what else is the doctor gonna do, really? Like, the doctor's ordering the most potent pain medications, what else can they do? You kind of just gotta deal with the crap of the patient complaining every 2 to 3 hours about their pain and just say, sorry, that's what the order is. And if they give bad feedback, you know, like, I did my job, I covered myself, I gave the pain meds, I assessed, I messaged the doctor, I'm covered. But moral of the story here is when you are dealing with a patient in a lot of pain, just be prepared to take a lot of crap. They're going to complain a lot. You're going to do your best to manage the pain. Don't take it personally. If you're in pain, you get pretty angry and antsy, so you're going to be complaining all the time too. You can take it out on your nurse or whatever, but just know if the nurse is a good nurse, they're going to try to do everything they can to protect you and keep you free from pain. However, you know, that's not always possible. Along with this, if you're nursing, then think about other strategies to relieve pain, like the heating pack, the ice pack I mentioned. Also, come up with like a schedule that will work with the patient's schedule. For example, if you see that the patient's asleep, don't wake them up to give them pain meds, let them freaking sleep. Then when they wake up, they'll ask you for pain meds, you can give it to them. Most of the time, if a patient's in pain, they're going to speak up. So just wait for them to speak up that they're in pain. Don't go in the room and offer them pain medications. Just wait for them to speak up, because they'll be speaking up when the pain's that bad. If the pain's not that bad and they're managing it, well, guess what? They're not going to speak up. But when it is bad, they will speak up, and that's when you can give the pain medication at the right time. Another thing is, if you know physical therapy is going to be coming to mobilize this patient, like get out of chair, you might as well just medicate them before that, because they're going to be complaining about a lot of pain in the moment and after the physical therapy, and it's not going to be fun for you. It's good for them to get the physical therapy, but they should be medicated so that there's no pain. So that's my whole stick on pain. Let's get into the next thing, which is blood pressures. More specifically, orthostatic blood pressures. So let's take this patient. A patient had a fall at home. Do you know why they fell? No, not necessarily. The patient might tell you they tripped. The patient might tell you someone pushed them over. However, what went on intrinsically that made them fall? Sometimes maybe they got dizzy. Sometimes maybe their leg gave out. However, you need to keep all those in the question. You can't just pick one and go with it. You have to keep all the options open. That way you could treat it properly. So, one of the things that can lead to a fall a lot of times is something called orthostatic hypotension. It occurs when you are going from a lying or a sitting to a standing position, and all the blood flows downward in your body, leaving not enough blood going to your brain, causing you to get dizzy and fall. Think about it. Think about like water pressure systems. When you are lying flat, level, all your blood is in an equal playing field. However, when you stand up, due to gravity, all the blood up here is going to start to rush down. It's just like a faucet. The blood goes down because gravity's bringing it down. Usually, if you're a young, healthy person, you're going to compensate for that gravity by increasing the pressure inside your arteries. That way, they squeeze more and keep more blood up here. So, in older adults, older people, people who are sick, sometimes they don't compensate correctly, and too much blood gets drained down. Not enough to their brain, they get dizzy and they fall. So when you have a patient come to the hospital that had a fall, you always want to check orthostatic blood pressures to see if they have a change in blood pressure when they're going from lying to sitting to standing. If their blood pressure all of a sudden drops when they stand up, that means that there's not enough blood pressure to keep the blood in your brain up here, so all the blood's draining. That could mean that they're predisposed to getting dizzy and falling. So whenever you discharge a patient that had a fall at home, it's important to get orthostatic blood pressures. That way, you know when they go home, they'll be stable enough to not get that dizziness from hypotension, which is low blood pressure, when they get up from bed or whatever. As a precaution, you always want to do your education too, and say things to the patient like, hey, just remember when you're getting out of bed in the morning or after a nap, dangle your feet for a little bit at the bedside. Don't go like this and wake up and start walking automatically. Take your time. Sit up, move your feet to the edge of the bed, dangle them over, get your bearings, look around the room, see if you're dizzy, and then stand up. Because lots of falls happen when people are just trying to get out of bed right in the morning, when their legs are all weak, when their blood's been at level playing field the whole night. Okay, so that's all the info I want to give you on blood pressures orthostatically, to be specific. Last thing I want to give you is a little bit complicated. Well, complicated to me because I never learned this in nursing school, but it's talking about discharge for a patient going to a rehab facility, skilled nursing facility, aka a SNF, SNF. So, whenever a patient has to get discharged from the hospital to a rehab facility, they have to get an order called a W-10. It's not like a W-2 at all, it's called a W-10. It has nothing to do with taxes. Well, I don't think it has anything to do with taxes. I could be wrong, but whatever. This W-10 is like an information sheet that gets transferred from the hospital, where the care was given acutely, to the rehab facility. That way the rehab facility knows exactly what's going on with this patient. Along with this W-10, you, the nurse, have to call the nursing facility or the rehab facility and give report to the nurse or the floor or whoever's going to be taking this patient at the facility. You have to give them report. That way they know what to expect from this patient. If you tell the nurse that this patient is coming in and they're fully continent of their urine and stool, that way they can like poop and pee on their own, but then they show up and they're not continent, well, it's going to be like, wow, what the hell, like this hospital's stupid. You want to give a good report, that way they know what to expect. Because if the patient is put in the hands of somebody who doesn't know what to expect, it's going to be like a whole brand new experience, bad continuity of care. They need to get the same information that we have so they can be cared for in a similar way as best as possible. Okay, that's all the information for today. I'm glad you were able to listen to me about it. Super boring if you're not interested in nursing, but maybe you are. I don't know. Leave a comment if you're interested in nursing. Other than that, I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace out.